Hi there, hello everyone, and happy 2019. A few days ago, I did an interview with Todd Medina for Soul Speaks 5D, and that has been uploaded onto the channel if you want to see it, if you haven't seen it. And in the video, Todd asked me about the fact that I put out a few statuses on social media about Donald Trump, and he spoke to me about me doing that. And obviously those who are friends with me on social media will have seen what I wrote, but many of you are not connected with me on social media. So I thought I would just read to you what I said, the question and my reply, so that you would be familiar with what I was talking about when you, or if you watch the interview with Todd. So I will read to you the question. Now, the question was from someone: how can we reconcile the fact that Donald Trump is president? So obviously, coming from the point of view of the person asking the question, what she's saying here is it's very difficult for her, and obviously for other people, to come to terms with the fact that Donald Trump is president. So it's been emotional and challenging and potentially upsetting and confusing and etc., without analyzing that person. Basically, the question was, how can we reconcile the fact that he's president? So this was my reply, and then I created this as a status. The best way to reconcile him being president is to see the bigger picture here. You'll never reconcile this by looking at his personality as that of an individual who should be the leader of a free country. When you take a step back and see a controlled country and entire planet that thinks it's free, leader after leader who are all part of the same family, groomed to be leaders since birth, all serving the same agenda but appearing to be independent, creating a regeneration of the same person, just in a different body, over and over again, with no chance of any outsider ever making it to that tightly guarded position of leader. Then all of a sudden, one random, loose cannon type of an individual with an uncontrollable and flawed personality makes it into that position as leader, going against everything the family had planned. That person looks most undesirable to those who believe the country, stroke world, is free, and that previous leaders have all been independent, rather than part of a hive mind. Then that leader meets people who want to free the country and the world, and he begins to learn. Seeing the world as it really is the picture you need to see if you want to reconcile what looks like cognitive dissonance from the outside. When you see this true picture, the bigger picture, which involves seeing the future potential outcomes rather than the little details, then not only do you reconcile this situation of Donald Trump being president, but you rejoice in it. So this was my reply, and this was the status that I put out on Facebook. I've put other comments out before on social media. So when Todd Medina asked me the question, he would have seen that status earlier that same day that we did the interview, and obviously he's remembering the posts I put out in the past. So I just wanted to talk about this a little bit more, because I understand how difficult it is for people to reconcile this if they're not seeing how everything joins up. If you look at reality in a compartmentalized way, and we need to do that to be able to function here, that's how the third dimensional brain views everything. But if you see everything in its compartmentalized pieces without seeing the whole, then it is very difficult to reconcile this, because what you would see is a free country, and not always. Some people are aware that there is control, and they still have problems reconciling Trump as president. So I will address that. But let's just say there are those who see this as a free country, or perhaps I'm looking at America here, perhaps a country that has issues that needs resolving, and then we can take a wider view into the world, a free world, most of it, and but with issues that need resolving, that these people understand that there are problems, but they don't see the same thing that is seen by individuals who are able to see that bigger picture, whether they see it psychically or whether they've pieced it together through doing research from individuals who are seeing the bigger picture, and then they've been able to see that bigger picture as well. So for those individuals who see this potentially free world, and they see the compartmentalized issues within that free world, so they'll look at a government system and they'll see the government as made up of many, many different people that are all independent. They're not connected to one another except by virtue of being in that government. So when an individual makes it to president, they will expect, and rightly so, this president or leader of any country, prime minister here in Great Britain, whoever it may be, they will expect certain qualities to be displayed by this person. This person, they would expect to be honest, and they would expect him or her to have integrity, and to be charismatic, to be caring, to basically put the country or the domain that individual is governing, to put that domain or country first before their own personal issues. And they will expect basically a person of integrity, a person of honor. What they won't be expecting is someone who is perhaps coming across as not very well versed in politics. They won't expect somebody to be someone who makes mistakes, who says things that are out of integrity. Also, when we're looking through the eyes of this person, these people who are seeing this free world, or a world with issues but where everyone's independent, they're also going to be looking through certain filters that have been given to them, which creates perceptions. So a lot of people's filters will come from what they see in the news, in the media, what they read on websites and in the newspaper, and etc., etc. So when they read about a certain person, they will be given preconceived ideas of that person. And when they actually then look at footage of the actual person, instead of looking with a clear, objective, non-judgmental view, they'll be looking through this sort of skewed perspective based on the things that they've seen and read within other media. This is predominantly most people on the planet, and certainly within Western society, and certainly within America and within Great Britain. Most people are doing this. They are looking at leaders, at the government, through these preconceived filters that they've picked up from other people or from the media. And so when they, with that premise that they have, that viewpoint that they have, when someone like President Donald Trump becomes president, because they see him in this certain way, and they have been led to believe that he is not of integrity, that he's a bit of a fool, a bit of a clown, that he's said really horrible things against women, and all of the things that the media portray him as, and that he has somehow shown as well in interviews over the years, and in interviews that are there now. They then take this viewpoint, and because they have this preconceived idea of how a leader should be, this integrity that he needs, this honor, that doesn't fit with Donald Trump. And therefore, they cannot, understand how he made it to be president. They can't understand how anyone could vote for him. Because they're looking at all the other candidates, or potential candidates, as being completely independent. And some of them have actually got perhaps better qualities, better leadership qualities. So they're thinking, how on earth did Donald Trump make it? So taking their perspective, you can understand why those individuals have come to the conclusion that they have, based on the premise that they have. Their conclusions are not incorrect. They're actually correct conclusions. What's incorrect is the premise in the first place, because it isn't based on, as I said here in this status, it's not based on the true bigger picture. It's based on a false premise. But they don't know that. Everything is based on a false premise. These false premises, these false narratives, these false filters are everywhere, and that's deliberate. We know that, but these individuals who have this viewpoint don't know this. So that explains those individuals. Then we have some individuals who are spiritually aware, but even within their spirituality, they're not necessarily seeing the extent of the control structure. So they're still seeing a certain independence within the government, and they still don't understand how someone like Donald Trump could make it to president. So that's another group of people. We then have others who are fully aware of the control structure. Well, when I say fully aware, what I mean is they're aware that a control structure is in place. They're not necessarily looking at all the nuances within that control structure. So they are classing the governmental sort of system as all one and the same. So they don't really look at the individual to see if that individual is independent or of that control structure. They just see everyone as the same. So when Donald Trump comes into presidency, they see him as part of this same control structure. So they're seeing more layers than the other individuals, but they still haven't gone in further to look even deeper. Because you see, when you uncover one false premise and you move a little bit towards truth, well, there's another false premise there. And then you have to sort of go through that one, and then there's another one and another one. You have to uncover many layers, many of these false filters to find the truth. It is an uncovering. That's how it works, and that's deliberate. There's no this inverted matrix within our reality would not be made up of just one false screen and then, oh, it's down, there's clarity. No, it's this full screen layered by this one, layered on top of this one, layered on top of this one, so that we can't get to the core. The way to get to the core is to be fully in a state of trust with your own discernment. That can be done through your clairvoyant, psychic, spiritual work, or it can be done through research, through connecting with others who are able to see this bigger picture. But regardless of whether you're taking it spiritually, psychically, or research, you need to have faith and trust in your own discernment and your own knowing. Then you start to uncover these layers very, very rapidly. And you actually get to the point where the filters, the false screens, fall down one after the other, so that when you see something happen, there aren't any false screens there. You're seeing with clarity. You are seeing very clearly the truth. This is my opinion based on my own spirituality, my own connection with the nine, my own faith and trust with my own discernment, and my own awareness. What I will say here is that this is my perspective, it's my worldview, and you may not agree with it. That does not mean that I am saying I am right and you are wrong. What I am saying here is I am giving you the benefit of my perspective, and I am fully aware that there are a great many individuals, more than most people realize, that share this same perspective that I do. That's lovely to know that I'm not alone in my perspective, but that's not really the issue. The issue is, and it doesn't matter to me if no one shares my worldview. The point is, I have faith and trust in my own discernment. So I'm able to see this bigger picture that I call it. So again, this is my perspective, and I completely honor you if your perspective is different. And what I would say to you is, continue with your perspective, continue with your beliefs, remain open to the perspective of others. What is an issue are what I seem to be seeing here are those that do see this bigger picture, the same picture as me. These people seem to be very accepting of those who don't. I mean, some of them are frustrated with those that are not seeing this. Some of them are very frustrated and want to shake them and wake them up. That's not the way to go about it. But a great many of these individuals are very accepting of those who don't see this same picture, and they understand. But those who do see something different, whether it's based on the first worldview that I spoke about, or the second one, or the third one, these people seem to get incredibly angry, really, really angry, and incredibly hurt by someone coming with another perspective. Not everyone, but a great deal of people. And that's where I would say for you to look at. Okay, you can have your perspective, but why be so extremely annoyed and upset and angry and hurt by the worldview that I'm presenting? So have a look at why that's making you so angry, because nothing should trigger you this deeply. I understand that there are buried traumas, and that's actually what's happening here. Traumas are being triggered, but that's what to look at here. That would be my advice to you if you do have the one of the other world views where you cannot reconcile Donald Trump being president. So I'm now going to talk about my reply to this person. So I've already said the best way to reconcile him being president is to see the bigger picture. I've explained how to see the bigger picture, go through these filters and break them down. You'll never reconcile this by looking at his personality as that of an individual who should be the leader of a free country. Ideally, if this country, America, England, the world, it doesn't matter, were free and not controlled. So let's say there's no cabal, there's no Illuminati, there's no deep state globalists, there's no service to self on this planet. We have a freedom. We have everyone within moving towards a service to others perspective. So obviously someone who's going to be, well, we wouldn't even have a president in the first place. We'd have a self-governing society, a Knight of the Round Table kind of governing society, and that's where we're going. But let's just say we are looking for a leader. That leader, no, wouldn't be someone like Donald Trump, be somebody different. Somebody, I'm not going to throw out any names here, but it would be somebody of extreme integrity, somebody with spiritual awareness, somebody with wisdom and balance, and somebody with love and fully polarized within a service to others vibration. That's who would be a leader, because a leader would not be someone who leads others. A leader would be someone who serves others. That is the true energy. But we are not in that free world that I have described. We're getting there. We're well underway in getting there, if you like, and that's our goal. That's our trajectory. That's our outcome. But we're not there yet, and that's a shock to the people in the first camp, because you try to tell them that there's a control structure and they'll just think you're crazy. The second group of people would also think that is a possibility, but it's not something that they would really embrace. They might do a bit of research, but they would dismiss it. I've actually had friends who've gone out there and researched really, really good research and dismissed it all. So that happens. The third group are the group who do see the control structure, but don't see any differences between Donald Trump and the cabal structure. They put them all in the same place. Those people have got more chance of seeing, because they've already broken down a lot of these false screens. They just need to break down some more. So if you look at Donald Trump and his personality and how he presents himself, regardless of what's in the media, but obviously that makes things worse because you're looking through a skewed filter, because the media, as Donald Trump says, is fake news. He's completely correct. It couldn't be more fake if it tried. So if you look at his personality as someone who has the credentials needed to be a leader of a free world, a free country, then you are not going to reconcile him being president, because you're going to constantly reinforce the fact that he does not have the credentials needed to be a leader, because he isn't that person that I explained, spiritually aware, someone who's fully in service. He isn't that. And we all know this. We all know that he isn't that. But it isn't about what he isn't. It's about where we are and what we have and who is the best person for the job at hand. So we go further. When you take a step back and see, number one, a controlled country and entire planet that thinks it's free. That's basically what we have here and what we've had for thousands and thousands of years. Leader after leader who are all part of the same family, groomed to be leader since birth. Now, when I say leader after leader, obviously I am speaking here on social media, so I don't have the room to write a huge article as a reply to someone's question. So I'm not deeply analysing this when I'm writing the status, which is why I'm doing it now. When I say leader after leader, in all truth, it hasn't been every single one. There have been others that have been independent. The one I think of mostly is JFK, but it doesn't really matter who they were, really, because we're talking about where we are now. So yes, there have been independent individuals, not very many at all, and they haven't had the required personality, the required aspects within them to deal with the control structure. They had something that was needed at that time in order for us to awaken now. So those that were not part of that cabal and made it to president, we honor them greatly because they have paved the way for us now and have done us a massive service, JFK being one of those individuals. But, you know, in the majority, leader after leader have all been part of the same family. When I say family, I don't mean that they are related to each other by blood specifically. There is a connection to the same bloodline going back many years, so that they're from the same origin point or somewhat connected, and they may not be connected through blood, they may be connected through an energetic connection, let's say, but again, that's getting off the point. So groomed to be leader since birth. So that's exactly what happens within this family. There will be a whole bunch of them that will be taught to be president or prime minister or whichever country, whichever type of leader for what within whichever area. We're looking here at specifically at government. They will have been groomed since birth to do this. And they will have been taught how to, all the traits that they need will have been given to them since childhood. They will have been groomed since childhood. So I'm going to pick on just one person as an example that I know psychically, that I have been seen, remote viewed, and astral out-of-body experience connected with this individual to see what's going on. Hillary Clinton was groomed, and her husband, but her more so, was groomed to be a leader in this way since birth. She was one of the individuals that was put into that group. There were many of them. Many of them never make it even into the government because they're disposable, if you like. As long as there's a whole group of them, then if one fails or one doesn't make it, then they've got another one to fall back on. But Hillary Clinton was one of that group, and her grooming continued. So when I say grooming, it is a mind control. It is a brainwashing. So if you're still with me by now, then I assume you are someone who is seeing a similar, if not the same, picture as me. I would imagine anyone who isn't would have switched off by now, which is probably a good thing, because I don't want to trigger anyone into extreme anger and frustration and hatred and all of those things. But if you are triggered in that way and you're still with me, then I would say just have an open mind here. That's all you really need. Just have an open mind. So that's the second point. Leader after leader, who are all part of the same family, groomed to be leaders since birth, all serving the same agenda, but appearing to be independent. So that's very important. They appear to be independent. They appear to not know each other, so that the everyday individual looks at these people and thinks that they're all different. They're all individuals. They're all completely different. They don't know each other. Sometimes these individuals from the same family will argue with one another and have like a pretend fallout and a pretend disagreement. And the everyday person is looking and thinking, oh yeah, then they're not independent. I agree with this one. I agree with this one. But it's all part of the control structure. Is all part of the game that they play. And when you break down these filters that I'm talking about, you can see it so clearly. It is amazing, and you get to the point where you forget what it was like before you knew all this, if there ever was a point when you didn't know this. Most people have come to this in some way and have discovered this. There are those that have been born knowing that something's not right about this planet, but I'm talking about the everyday average person who comes to this knowing. You kind of forget what it was like when you had all those full screens. Now the blinkers are off. You've forgotten what it was like to be in ignorance, and you can't understand how those people can't see what you see. So we need to be understanding of those who are seeing the world through these filters. In a way, it's easier for us to understand their perspective, much easier for us to understand their perspective than it is for them to understand ours, because they can't see through those filters until they start to break them down. So all serving the same agenda. So this is the issue here. Even though on the surface they may appear to be wanting different things, ultimately their agenda is the same. Now, if you look at these individuals genuinely individually, each of them, of course, have a different agenda because each of them have a different inner resonance, inner knowing. What's actually happened is, since birth, since childhood, that inner knowing, that inner resonance is broken down. It's infiltrated and it's changed, and in place, the agenda of the group is the agenda that's been put in place instead of the individual's own knowing. So they completely bypass their own intuition and their own knowing, and they fully take on the mindset of the overall group, and it's done through fear. So we need to obviously be very in a state of compassion for those individuals as well. But the point is, from the point of view of the everyday person looking at this situation, they are seeing independent individuals, but ultimately these individuals serve the same agenda. They're part of the same group. They're part of the same family. As I said, many literally are related through thousands and thousands of years of keeping the bloodlines the same. And they refer to one another as family, and they see one another as family. But we, as individuals, everyday individuals who see everything through the filter of the media, and then we see these individuals, it's very difficult for us to believe. I mean, I've actually had people say to me, are you telling me that the media and the politicians and the judicial system and the secret services and the police force, they're all part of some great big group? And I said, yes, that's what I'm saying. And they go, oh, come on. And they look at you like you're insane. And you are to them. And you can't convince somebody who can't see, because of course, we want to see the same thing they do. We don't want to see our world being all controlled by the same massive group of individuals that are have infiltrated all these different areas of life. It's a horrible, horrible realization. When we first come to this realization, it is more scary than anything. It shakes everything you knew. And another reason why I'm doing this video is because as we go into 2019, more and more people's worldview is going to be shaken to the point where, in a way, everyone's worldview will be shaken in some way. And that has already started to happen, but people are very good at retreating back to the worldview they had before. But as more and more is uncovered, as more and more of those filters, those false layers are broken down, people are going to start to see what we see, and they will be going through this fear, this horror, this shock, this total shattering of their worldview from the point of view of the higher dimensional beings. That's the last thing they want. Doesn't mean they don't have desire like we do, but what I mean is the overall aim for the service to others vibration is not to shatter the worldview of the majority of people on this planet and leave them in a state of terrible fear and horror. It is a slow uncovering with lots of support. That is the aim, the overall aim. Unfortunately, that might not be the case for every group. There will be some that are going to go through this awful realization. So if we're aware of that, then and we have compassion, we can then step in and be there for those people when this happens. And I think everyone who sees this bigger picture is, from what I can see psychically, I would say above 90%, if not 95% of people who see the bigger picture are ready to step in and help. Even those who are angry with those who can't see the bigger picture and are frustrated with them and want to shake them and wake them up, even those people deeply hold compassion and will be there to assist and help others. Because at the end of the day, if you see the bigger picture now, when all this filter shattering occurs, the people that know you, who have ridiculed you, they're going to be the ones that come to you now. They're going to be calling you and saying, hey, all the things you've been telling me for 20 years, I thought you were crazy. It's true. Help me. What do I do? How is this working? Please, tell me the benefit of your knowledge. So this is kind of going to happen, and probably has already happened to a lot of you already. So appearing to be independent, but they are not. That's another part of this bigger picture worldview. Creating a regeneration of the same person, just in a different body, over and over again, with no chance of any outsider ever making it to that tightly guarded position of leader. So the first part of this, creating a regeneration. It's almost like, and I'm using a metaphor here, we've got a machine that's generating the same individual over and over again. I use this as a metaphor, but literally this is what's happening, because the core intuitive aspect of the individual is shattered and replaced by the hive mind or the family's agenda. You are actually seeing a regeneration of the same person, just in a different body over and over again. So yes, these are different individuals, these are different souls, but they hold the same worldview, the same agenda, they work for the same group and have done since childhood. I'm speaking here on a physical-ish level. If you want to go upwards into a metaphysical viewpoint, many of these individuals are actually literally the same soul, but I wasn't speaking from that viewpoint here, and certainly not when I created this status for social media. I'm speaking more of a physical perspective. So whilst that is true, and I'm just going to throw that in, I am actually speaking here in a metaphor sense. So we've got the same person over and over again in a different body, with no chance of any outsider, absolutely no chance would an outsider be allowed to make it to president or any other leader of a government, but certainly not president of America. That is the most sought after position for the family. They have to have that. They have to have the presidency. If they don't, then all the plans and plots that they have cannot be put into place unless they can somehow manipulate that president to be a puppet for them, if you like. So the chance of an outsider getting in, especially an outsider who can't be manipulated, is their absolute worst fear. And they've had things in place to ensure that that would not happen. One person after another person after another person closely circling around the presidency, making absolutely sure that no one could ever get anywhere near that. It's, as I said, tightly guarded position of leader. So that's the worldview we're looking at. Then all of a sudden, one random loose cannon type of an individual. So I'll start off with that first of all. What we're looking at here is this tightly guarded presidency. All of a sudden, this random individual that's come out of nowhere, and when he first came on the scene, Donald Trump, the family would have laughed and thought, there's no way this person will be voted in. There's no way that the people will vote this person in. It's a bit of a joke, you know. And they didn't think for a minute that that there would be a chance. Plus they have things in place to actually be like a backup for any eventuality, meaning if he did get more votes than he should have done, then they've got contingency plans regarding the voting system. I'm not going to go into all of that because it's getting off the point somewhat. One random appears to be this random individual from nowhere just comes up, loose cannon type of an individual. Now, when I say loose cannon, somebody commented and said, I agree with everything you've said, Magenta, except for the loose cannon. I don't think that Donald Trump is a loose cannon. I think he's actually extremely controlled and extremely focused and calculated and highly intelligent. And yes, you are right. I agree with you. He is all of those things. When I say loose cannon is when you are communicating with someone who has that first world view or second or even the third world view here that I was talking about earlier in this video, you can't just come in and say, hey, Donald Trump is supposed to be where he is. He's part of a grand design, you know, whatever. He's amazing. He's intelligent. He's doing all these fantastic things. He's freeing the country. He's independent. He's not cabal. That person is going to hear what you are saying and just be lost. And they will dismiss what you say because it's too far beyond the reach of where they can go. So they will dismiss what you say. Not necessarily the person who asked the question specifically, because she was spiritually aware herself, but other people have asked me this same question. So I'm not just looking at the person who asked this question. I'm looking at the majority of people who asked this same question. So when you're talking to somebody who's asking the question, how can we reconcile the fact that Donald Trump is president? You need to come to where they are and take part of their perspective and validate that perspective when it's genuine. You don't manipulate and pretend. So loose cannon, there is a part of President Trump that is a loose cannon in the respect that he will sit in front of cameras and he will say things without thinking. He's got better at this since he's been in office, but I have seen him randomly talk about things that perhaps other people may have not spoken about. And so he will, and he doesn't necessarily choose always the best way of describing something. So he'll say something in his flurry of communication with all good intention, and then the little bits that I would say is part of the loose cannon are picked up by the media instantly and magnified and distorted and presented as these stories that make him look a million times worse than he is. And to be honest, his loose cannon personality is actually part of the personality he needs to do the job that he's doing. it's actually a good thing that he's like this. And when this other person commented, I don't think he's a loose cannon, I think he's focused and clever. You are right, he does have focus, he does have high intelligence, he knows what he's doing, all of those things are correct, but he has the loose cannon personality there as well. So you can zoom in on that when you're talking to the person who doesn't see your worldview, validate part of what they are saying. Yes, this person is a clown, yes, he's crazy, yes, he's undesirable, yes, he doesn't have the qualities needed to be the leader of a free world, a free country, whatever. But, and then you can validate something of what they are feeling, because their conclusions are correct based on the premise that they have. So they're not distorted individuals themselves, they're just seeing through distorted premises. The conclusion they've made is correct based on the information that they have at hand. You have a different worldview, you have a different perspective, and you are seeing the truth, the bigger picture, or certainly closer to the truth than the majority of others. So all of a sudden, one random loose cannon type of an individual with an uncontrollable, and that's the same thing as loose cannon really, so that's the part of him that isn't controlled. Yes, he does have a controlled side to him, and yes, he does have an ability to control that aspect, but there are other parts of him that are somewhat uncontrollable. This is what makes him, other people have used the term wild card. It's a perfect analogy for him. He's a wild card, as in the unexpected one that sneaked in under the very noses of those that were keeping such a good watch. How on earth did he get in? And he's still got that wildness about him, the loose cannon, uncontrollable wildness. He needs that. He needs to have that part of his personality, because that's what makes him uncontrollable. So uncontrollable as in he's not controlling himself in areas, the loose cannon, makes him uncontrollable literally. He cannot be controlled by others. It's a layer within him. It's the perfect configuration for the job at hand. And I've said this before. He has the perfect configuration for the job at hand. And it's so important to know this, because anything outside of that, you are not seeing the core issue as to what's going on. Type of an individual with an uncontrollable and flawed personality. Yeah, he has a flawed personality, and that's what everyone is basing their opinions on. Their premise is that he has a flawed personality, and this is constantly reinforced through the media. But what the media do is exaggerate and twist, and they downright lie as well. They make things up. While I'm on the subject of the media, I don't really watch that much mainstream media. I am aware of the falseness of the mainstream media, and I find it somewhat energetically painful to watch. I do occasionally, just to check in and see if they're still as corrupt as they were last year, and they usually are. But there is one mainstream media outlet where I have seen some truth and some honest reporting and some good reporting. Now, it's not there all the time in all the different programs they produce, but I'm talking about Fox News. So I'm not necessarily recommending them as a truthful news outlet, so don't misunderstand me there. But what I am saying is that I have seen truth within that network. There's one lady called Judge Jeannie, and there's a guy called Tucker Carlson. Both of these individuals have spoken very accurate reporting. So just throwing that in there. That there are others that I can't remember their names, but they're the main two, Tucker Carlson and Judge Jeannie, and a lot of the things that they have said have been extremely accurate. So if you do want to watch mainstream news, switch over to Fox. But if you really, really want truth, then you're going to find it within alternative media on YouTube and on other video sites and other alternative news sites, which I've spoken about before. So flawed personality, well, of course, yes, he has a flawed personality, he does. Many of us do. In fact, all of us do, really, in one way or another. We are all refining those flaws. I mean, with Donald Trump, you are not looking at a fifth dimensionally thinking individual. There may be some aspects of him that stands within honor, and there are, and integrity, that's there as well, but there's flaws, and there are some very good decisions that are based in great focus and accuracy, and are very in alignment with the ascension timeline. But there are other decisions that he makes that are not coming from an alignment. Some of the decisions he makes are a little bit, oh dear. So yes, we've got a flawed personality here. That's not the issue, and that's what I meant here when well, I'll get to that bit, but it's when I'm talking about the little details. And they're big details, I know. When Donald Trump makes a decision perhaps about the environment, and it's not the best decision for the environment, don't forget, he has a huge job at hand, and he can't just come on in like Merlin the wizard and wave his magic wand and make the world wonderful. It has to be done in these increments, and it has to be done from where he is, which is right in the middle of a cabal-controlled structure. They are not happy that he's there, and they're trying to control him, and they're not doing it. But he does need to tread carefully, if you will. He needs to be a master chess player, and that's what he's doing. And he's got some assistants around him assisting him with this. So the little details, all will right itself. All will right itself. And to get focused on this particular bill or this particular decision proves that he's completely awful. No, what it proves is he's a flawed individual who has made a decision that's not in the best interests of the overall planet, but that is an outside issue. It's on the periphery of the core issue. The core issue is taking down the cabal, bringing them down so that they no longer rule from this hidden place, so that we become a free society. Then we can start looking at the periphery and the details. Then we can start working on all these other issues. The core issue, he is doing his job incredibly well from the core issue. So one random loose cannon type of an individual with an uncontrollable and flawed personality makes it into that position as leader, going against everything the family had planned. So that's the view, that's the picture, that's the story. And in my opinion, with every tool that I have in which to make a decision, to see a presentation, in my opinion, that presentation is an accurate one. You don't have to agree, it's my perspective. But that is my worldview. So that's what I am showing you. That person looks most undesirable to those who believe the country/world is free. And I've already discussed that. And that previous leaders have all been independent individuals rather than part of a hive mind. And I've already discussed that. And yes, this is a hive mind. That's why I say they're the same person. When you hear these individuals speak, once you've broken down these filters, you can spot them because they are the same person. Not literally, metaphysically, yes, but physically, no, they're not the same person. But the core agenda that they have is the same because it follows the agenda that is the group. And they have removed or had taken from them their own core individuality. They're a hive mind. They are no longer individual. If you want to know what a hive mind is, watch Star Trek and learn about the Borg. Basically, that's a great metaphor for this structure I'm talking about. Then that leader meets people who want to free the country and the world, and he learns. Well, that's all true. in this case, he actually met some of these people before he became president, but that's it doesn't really need to be part of the status that was my reply to this person. So what I was getting at here is this random, uncontrollable, loose cannon kind of clowny person who just sort of bumbled on into the presidency and you know, freaked everyone out, is learning. Learning is the word. He isn't perfect. He's learning, and he's learning well. And those who see the bigger picture are not seeing him as a savior. The amount of people that say to me, Magenta, you obviously think that Donald Trump is this amazing savior that's been given to us by the Lord, and you know, he's truly an angel. All of those things may have merit within metaphysical and spiritual viewpoint, within fifth dimensional viewpoint. But I've never, ever made a statement anywhere where I've said that Donald Trump is the savior of the world and that he was given to us by the Almighty and he's here to, you know, reign over us like a god. I've never said anything like that whatsoever. So those who see this world view are aware that there's flaws, and they are aware of the situation, but he's learning and he's getting stronger and he's getting more aware. He may not know everything. He may not know everything about the cabal. Some of the decisions he makes, he thinks he's doing for the right thing, and yet that particular decision may have been cabal manipulated, and he's followed them, not knowing that they're cabal and not knowing he's been manipulated, and thinking he's doing the right thing. These are the little details that will be smoothed out. The overall issue, the overall core job that he has is not really to be the president of the United States. The core job is to bring down the cabal, to free the world from tyranny and this dark rule that has been in place for thousands of years, and he's not doing it single-handedly. And I think this is where people mistake me from saying he's a savior and that he's going to single-handedly bring down the cabal all on his own. No, he is simply the figurehead in the position he needs to be in. What he does is basically open the door and we all go in through the door and do our jobs. This is a huge team effort. Donald Trump's part of a team, a huge team. And the majority of you listening to me right now, you're all on the same team. You're all aware of it and you're all doing the job too. So seeing the world as it really is. And as I said, this is my perspective, and in my opinion, and with all the analytical tools that I have, psychic level, mediumistic level, spiritual level, all the different dimensional viewpoints and perspectives, physical level, everything, you make a decision based on all of these different perspectives you are shown, that you can see, which are the breaking down of these false screens, going into the core and unraveling and digging as deep as you can to get to the accuracy of what's happening. That's how I see this. So seeing the world as it really is the picture you need to see if you want to reconcile what looks like cognitive dissonance, as in that doesn't fit. You know, this is what I'm seeing and this doesn't fit. And that's why people are getting so frustrated, because it's, to them, it's like having this jigsaw puzzle and squashing in a piece that doesn't fit the jigsaw puzzle. But for those who see the bigger picture, it's kind of like, well, you're looking at the wrong jigsaw puzzle. Throw it away and get a new one and you'll see that this falls into place. So what looks like cognitive dissonance from the outside, and when you see this true picture, the bigger picture, which involves seeing the future potential outcomes rather than the little details. So what individuals are doing when they're looking at the bigger picture is seeing potential future outcomes. Now, I'm not necessarily speaking spiritually here. I am, but not necessarily. When I said Trump is like a master chess player, you're looking at the chessboard, and a chess player will have sort of 3 to 6 moves in their mind as the potentials that they can go, you know, the moves that they can make before the other chess player makes their move, and you'll be thinking of what the other chess player, I was taught chess at the age of 7 actually by my stepfather, and I was very, very good, and I was chess champion at school, just to throw that in, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. I used to play chess against all the teachers and win. So I understand about strategy and how it works. Everything we've ever learned as a child is all part of the tools we need to do the job when we finally come into our mission and begin to live the chosen, blueprinted life that we planned before our incarnation. So that's why I'm talking about me playing chess as a child. I didn't know that at the time, but there was obviously a reason I needed to learn about strategy, planning ahead. So you're looking at the bigger picture, the sort of political chessboard, and Trump is able to do this as well. So we are able to look and think, well, if the cabal make this move, or they could make that move, or that move, then we can do this, and this. But obviously we take our lead from Trump. On a physical level, we can influence all of this from the spiritual viewpoint, and there are a huge team of individuals, both physically incarnated on this planet and beyond this planet, in extraterrestrial kind of presentations, and those in light body presentations, all working together. The team is quantum, it's multidimensional. So we are looking at the potential outcomes physically within the third dimension as strategic moves politically, but also energetically and spiritually. That's the viewpoint the individual has when they're looking at the bigger picture. The little details of Trump passing a bill that isn't really in alignment, I mean, unless that bill is a major part of the sort of core structure and bringing the cabal down and going against that, that would be something to be concerned about. But that, in my opinion, has not happened. Every decision he's making that is not necessarily fully in alignment is a periphery decision. There are ripple effects, I know, but the core issue is still going the way it needs to go. And I can't go into that any more than I already have, because obviously we do know that there are service to self family members that will watch these videos, not necessarily mine, but they do keep track of the alternative media. That brings up one question. Somebody wrote to me on Facebook, I don't know if this was a joke or not, and said, are you a cabal controlled puppet? Okay, so the answer's no. But I guess really what I would say to anyone who asks me that question, and he's not the first person to ask me, or she, what I would say is you need to make that decision for yourself. I can't tell you that I'm not, you know. I could have the Illuminati downstairs having a ritual in my living room, you know. I mean, for all you know, you have no idea. The only way to really know is to look at the vibration of an individual. Is that person, if you're psychically aware, you will know if that person is coming from an authentic love, a desire to teach, a desire to help, a desire to activate, a desire to radiate their fields into that structure. If you can't see that, and you are unable to work with those levels, then you need to make that decision for yourself. But I'm sure the person on Facebook was probably just prodding me or having a laugh, or maybe they genuinely did believe that I was, but I didn't really tune in on it. I just briefly saw the question and thought, oh gosh, right. So, I mean, in the work that I do and the controversial subjects I talk about, I'm bound to have people say that to me, and it's fine, it's fine. So, as I said, you are looking at future potential outcomes rather than these little details. You are looking at where things are likely to go. When you do that, when you see this bigger picture, not only do you reconcile this situation of Trump being president, so you do reconcile it. There really isn't anything to reconcile when you see the bigger picture, but you reconcile it, you come to terms with it because you see the bigger picture. Not only do you reconcile this situation, but you rejoice in it. And that is so important. You rejoice in it. Why? Because for the first time in however many years, despite the fact that I did say that JFK was also independent, but for the first time in thousands of years, an independent individual with the correct configuration needed for this job has made it to this tightly guarded position of the presidency of America. So you rejoice in that. And it doesn't matter whether you live in America or not. I am in England, as everybody knows. I'm not American. I've never even been to America. This isn't about an English person, Magenta Pixie, getting involved in American politics. The amount of people that have told me, stop getting involved in American politics. You don't even live here. You don't know what it's like over here. You don't live here. That's not the issue. This isn't about a country. This is Earth. And it goes beyond Earth as well. It's a ripple effect outwards through timelines, through other planetary systems. This is a cosmic seed point that's occurring here on Earth, and it reverberates out. And it's a situation that's so much bigger than us. And yet on another level, it isn't, because we are part of it. It isn't bigger than us. It is us. But from the point of view of being a physically incarnated individual, this is a scenario that's been playing out again and again for eons, longer than our known history. So this moment, when you see the even bigger picture, and I'm talking about a galactic picture rather than a planetary one, when you see a cosmic and a galactic picture, you don't need to see the galactic picture to rejoice at Trump getting into the presidency. You can rejoice just by seeing the planetary picture from a third dimensional viewpoint. But when you see the galactic picture, you rejoice at this. You don't just reconcile it. You rejoice it because it is a timeline that many thought they would never see. And it is a timeline. It is an eventuality that creates a ripple. And that's exactly what it has done. Although, stepping back a bit, our consciousness, the consciousness of the awakened individuals, created this in the first place. The fact that there is an independent individual within a cabal-controlled structure in a position such as the presidency is a reflection of where we are. And that is really about liberty, freedom, and truth. That's what this is all about. Donald Trump, I'm not saying that he lives within truth or that he lives within freedom. That isn't what I'm saying. I'm saying that the energetic of liberty, freedom, truth, honesty, integrity, and all those things that the aware individuals have created for themselves in their own lives, have come together in this consciousness, this group, and it has created reflections in the outside world. Some of those reflections may be crop circles. Some of those reflections may be new discoveries within the field of medicine. And some of those discoveries, some of those reflections are the political scene and the presidency of America. So it is a reflection from that perspective. From the physical perspective, this is the first time this has happened, and this was an eventuality that many individuals did not think that they would see. They had accepted their fate of control, if you will, to a point. And once Trump stepped in, this brings with it renewed hope, because there are those who've lived watching this picture for a long, long time. So that's my status on social media in response to the question, how can we reconcile the fact that Donald Trump is president? And the main response to that is to see the bigger picture. So I hope I've helped by presenting that, as that is what Todd Medina was referring to in the interview when he asked me about my latest Trump post. So that was the status, that was the post, and that's my analysis of that. So thank you very much for listening, and I wish you all the best in our new year of 2019, and we shall see what this year shall bring. Most interesting. Thank you for listening. Lots of love. See you again. Bye. In this channeled transmission, I enter into an expansive, transformative and activating exploration of interdimensional dialogue, discussing the mechanics of Stargate Ascension. This cutting-edge information holds key codes, maps and coordinates for the starseeds on Earth, as they go through this process of DNA reconstruction and regrouping of cosmic memory themselves. The significant codex of information is downloaded to the reader, as they, through this sacred text, are called by the Dragon, Excalibur, Crystalline Light Geometry, Atlantis, and the Emerald Flame. I am so very pleased to present my new book, The Infinite Helix and the Emerald Flame.